Welcome, everybody. My name's Ida Farhat, and welcome to the Cosmic Group podcast. Today, I have superstar Sean Bond, special guest, and superstar Brian Tseng. Today, we're going to be discussing a pretty fascinating topic that I came up with based on a post that Sean Bond put on Facebook. I thought was worthy of doing a show on. So first, I'll ask you, Sean, if you don't mind, introducing yourself and tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and then we'll move to Brian, and then we'll open the show up.
Sounds good. Hey, I'm Sean Bond, founder of Sonic League, a group of individuals that empower themselves, their dormant abilities to help the planet and expand the knowing and teaching of all the different methods of how to make our lives better around the world. And eventually we'll form into many advanced subjects that will make us a very psionic emergent species. And I also do healings and stuff. Brian, what? Who are you? For the audience.
Basically, sorry, you have a crying newborn in the background here. I'm the executive producer for the 2024 and now upcoming 2025 Full Disclosure Now conferences, and I'm bringing my medical organizing background, community organizing, to the Full Disclosure movement to basically help us achieve our Star Trek future by telling the truth of all the ET phenomenon, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Welcome to both of you. I'm super excited for this show today, Sean, especially with you and Brian. I absolutely adore and admire you both big time, and so it's lovely to be on this podcast with you both. The topic is the power of the micro and macro collective unity, and I do have some questions. I can ask a question, and we can maybe that will get you, get your creative juices flowing, and you'll be able to give some good information to the audience. So, can I ask you a question, Sean? Are you ready?
Anytime, yeah.
Okay.
Same thing with Brian.
How do our body's internal communication systems, such as cells and energy, mirror the larger societal structures like elections? I think that's a great first question to start with, based on your posts and considering we have elections coming to the United States.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely a big subject, and I'll go right to my page on that. Like everyone, it's the laws of hermetics and as above, so below. So the micro connects to the macro. If you know thyself, you know thy universe, or vice versa. It's the human body is a reflection of the cosmos and the universe, and so you can influence the external at a greater level by affecting the internal, especially if you find out what specifically represents the external felt within, and then you change it internally. And then you can observe, I've done this quite a bit, where I'll observe it change those people or external things or events or a timeline, because it's all held within. So it's quantum, people call it quantum jumping, all kinds of stuff. So I went into the post for people that don't know. It's like a reflection, internal to external remedy that's needed. For the voting system, there's a lot that's messed up with the voting system. It's essentially an illusion. Who counts the votes and displays the winner is what essentially runs the country for whatever amount of time that they agreed upon in the democracy. And so,
can I respond to that or comment to that? What you just said for a minute. So, would you agree that voting is a black magic ritual?
There's a energy harvesting system on pretty much everything, religions, holidays, broadcasting for media and commercials. And so The awakened people, feel free to detach from voting, especially if you're psionic and you can influence the collective to awaken and become more aware. That's my vote personally. And then the more aware they are, the better. And I'm also like more interested not just in the voting of the candidates, but them securing the election first, because it doesn't matter at any point. And then the media also narrows it down, so it doesn't also matter. But yeah, there is a energy harvesting, but essentially that's not going to stop the less aware people. So we're left to the lesser evil and influencing the timeline, being whatever is narrowed down.
I wholeheartedly agree with everything that you just said, and my thoughts are pretty much the same about everything that you just said. And I think it's so important. And I am a true believer. I've only voted one time in my life, and that was because I was dating a guy that was adamant that I vote for the people, and I didn't even know what I was doing. I was like 19 years old, but something intuitively always, always, always said, "Don't do it." Before I even had my awakening and knew, like I had some, I have my gifts. I had some intuitive nudges many times. Definitely do not vote. And because that's voting for a king over top of us. So if we're really going to self-actualize and be self-actualize and embody that and live that in our outer world, start within and express that out on our outer world, then we, from my perspective, and I don't tell people what to do, I just tell them I don't do it, is have to walk the walk, right? We have to do what we're talking about. Otherwise, we're being,
Let me provide a perspective that might be helpful here.
Sure.
My answer is when it comes to voting, it depends. I don't ever rely on voting strategically as if in and of itself it's going to achieve anything. However, if I do feel, especially at a local level or at a big national level, if there is even, the lesser of two evils. In my case, in this example, I don't see as the lesser of two evils. I see as one is evil, and then the other has hopefully some white hat elements backing them, no matter how much of a schmuck they may or may not be. And so, I'm already not playing this same game necessarily as a lot of the electorate because, my thinking is generally, I feel it's more elevated than, say, Trump derangement syndrome where I'm with her, Having said that, this is more about from the micro to the macro. If you have the individual person as a voter or just as an individual person, it's more I see as like the 100th monkey effect. As more and more people catch on, hey, the system is rigged. It's not it's really what we're presented it to be. And there's, maybe we can participate in tactically or strategic or not strategically, but tactically or not, definitely not strategically. Then you're coming from a mature voter population that's going to be able to take greater action than just going to vote or fill in a circle. You got people now who can network and do disaster relief together, which is what's happening in North Carolina or Tennessee and up down to Florida. People are saying, hey, my farm is available. If you have horses and people, come on over. And people are like, okay, we have helicopters. You can fly supplies in here. People are, we'll keep an eye out for FEMA and make sure that we'll let everyone know when they're bringing in the guys with shotguns to terrorize everyone. Sean, can you turn down the music a little bit? I think it might be drowning me out a little. Thank you, brother. And then that's on the one hand, but then on the other, we've got the Maharishi effect thing where all of us were together with everyone in our community putting out the call, hey, perhaps after we got walloped with weather warfare by Hurricane Helene, or amped up Hurricane Helene, I know Sean understands this, why can't we visualize Hurricane Milton, which is likewise being amped up by the other side? This time we're ready. We can apply mass prayer, mass quantum entanglement, the Maharishi effect, whatever you want to call it, to negate or reduce the effects of Milton. And a lot of this, and I've been told through Christopher Jacobs and the Sasquatch people that we were successful in that, taking it from a 5 to a 3. Right. And then Sean, do you have any readings on that? Any more of the beyond the spiritual veil insight than what we get here on the 3D matrix side?
Oh yeah, so I can cover. I'll cover both the voting and then the hurricane. Yeah. I agree, and it's essentially. So if you want to vote, that's fine. Just know that you want to detach and take a bath from a big psychic parasite that wants to steal energy for tacit consent for rulership. You can still do that. If you don't, then I understand. And then you can also influence the population to awaken and become aware of the dark things for both candidates, to influence them and do enough research so they realize which is the darker candidate, so they can at least choose the lighter one, which then includes better timelines. Which is what, and I'm applying this to multiple elections, so I'm not like, so anyone, I love and forgive you. We're all like fractal cells. Let us become aware together and get out of our bubbles and safe spaces and all that.
Yes.
So yeah, voting in the body, how it works is the things that vote, you want to get everything in a collective and have it connected in communication really well. A lot of the organs are quarantined from like threats and attachment that like make them feel unsafe, so they don't communicate well. So if they're all well communicating, then they share data and they can influence with your main consciousness in control. Cells, mitochondria, the things that vote are cells, mitochondria, chromosomes, DNA, atoms, energy particles, RNA, microorganisms as well, such as bacteria, but and symbiotic beings, as well as parasites, unfortunately, which is kind of how we're kind of dealing with the things that shouldn't be voting. And unity voting systems in the body you want to get for use in distributing power, energy, nutrients, natural law in the body, the rules, the boundaries that you apply as the main consciousness that's supposed to be sovereign, and the use of force in programming, and the control systems for this all. Vote count also needs like the representation of the vote counters, which can be hijacked as well. In the body there are monitoring, control, information sharing, and systems of collective that's of the voted agreement and enforcing it. So that in the body needs to be purified, and all attachment to it that's making it less of its pure greatest state of being uncreated if necessary. And the same thing with externally. So these creations that are making voting worse and messing with it need to be uncreated, and there need to be a created system to monitor it and hold it accountable, done in unity in the collective consciousness. Then there needs to be in the sacral, which the sacral generates a lot of the creative force, programming, etc. If you make the sacral feel safe enough, creates enough creativity that comes up with awesome ideas and imagination, and then you can form all these energy constructs for preventing deception, rigging, fraud, hijacking, and you can make, there's like quintillions or outrageous numbers of these different creations that you can make for that. And then once you apply that internally, you can trade it to the collective and then support the collective in their ability to enforce that and make that. And then they make physical versions of these kind of constructs, such as 32 physical ways to monitor, prevent cheating, such as these graphs with the population, voting machines not really being taken because they're really riggable, counting the ballot, voting, counting,
Sean, let's give a shout out to Dominion voting systems right there for absolutely easily 100% rigged and hacked voting systems. Sorry about that.
No, that was fantastic, Brian. We need to speak to it. This is the thing, right? So when we don't speak up and we don't say anything and we just sit back and bitch and not really put the energy out, like coming together, like in a collaboration, and we all have the same intention of real sovereignty, and even, being a sovereign's higher than a king. So it's something that has to happen internally before it can happen externally. And there's a lot of education behind filling out paperwork and doing everything you need to do to truly emancipate yourself from the system. They've made it extremely difficult. And so I say, okay, I'm not playing that game. While that is important right now, what can I do? I can start within and speak out to the things like, for instance, the voting machines and so forth, to say, hey, we're aware that they're rigged. We're not in consent of it. And, we're choosing something else, and we're going to create it for ourselves, something that's beneficial for the whole and that brings value to all of humanity. That's really, my thoughts on that. Because, while what Sean had mentioned when he had the lesser of two evils, it is quite literally that, picking the lesser of the lesser of the two evils. And we're using that word,
Yeah, let me say something here, though. And this is part of talking about the puppet show that is our electoral system. The forces at work, that's the whole thing. The only reason why I'm voting for the orange man isn't because it's the orange man, well, versus her. That's actually, for me personally, an easy choice, but it's because of the people behind them. Okay, you have to understand the factions behind them. There's one faction that wants P. Diddy exposed, okay, and there's one faction that wants him covered up. Right now, the faction that wants him covered up is probably more the blue faction that's getting all their funding from all of Hollywood. It's just follow the money. So forget biases, just follow the money. It's just math. All right. These guys were bidding $1 zillion and they're on P. Diddy's side and Epstein's side. Okay. And they're voting for her. And then for some reason, they all hate him. And then many of us understand there's rumblings and grumblings or happy rumors of positive forces, perhaps in the military, perhaps in whatever private contractor areas, who they want to round up all these bastards. They want to go in and clean out the underground bases and free the children. It's no longer, is it Trump versus Kamala? That's not the vote anymore. And if people get stuck on that, that's too bad. They're missing what's really happening out there. That's why a lot of people, they feel so strongly about this. I'm not a Trump guy, not by any means. But for me, given the current situation, Sean mentioned timelines. What is a higher timeline? Well, generally, the higher timeline is the people who, when Trump got in there in 2016 and signed all those executive orders, there was a lot of clearing out in Wall Street and in Hollywood and in all over the place. And then the Biden faction got back in and undid a lot of that work. And then we're in the midst of all these disasters, and the federal government is doing nothing. Okay, or FEMA, they're actually hurting. And so for me, 4 more years of that I don't see it as like it's a red or blue thing. I'm looking at it in the context. This is not your normal, for me, this isn't your normal election. And even then, having said that, I do see the presidential elections as being important from the standpoint of, even knowing they are hijacked and all that, the other side does get to see the real numbers. They get to know, hey, oh shit, our candidate, even with all the stacking and lying and cheating and importing of votes and rigging and this and this and that, our candidate still lost 80 to 20. You know what I mean? So to me, these are important things to understand. It's not just the old vote or don't vote. I think it's in the context of, where the movement lies. And then having said that, if the movement is properly organized, you can refer to other, more or less successful movements where they have a movement and then they can put pressure on the parliamentarians to open up the books and do what they have to do or can do at that governmental level. Okay. And you don't turn your nose up at it and say, oh, that's the government. We want no part of it. It's corrupt. It's like, no, if we're talking about seizing power away from these satanic pedophiles, well, then we have to be serious about that. And it's not just this ideological aversion to their shitty systems. We need to hijack their systems that have been hijacking us and have that revolutionary maturity and approach.
That was well stated and well articulated, and I appreciate that. And Brian, please don't misunderstand me, and we'll move to Sean and let Sean respond to you as well. But I would definitely pick Trump over Biden or Harris or whatever her name is. I don't even Kamala Harris.
Yeah, and it's not even and Biden. You mentioned Biden. It's not even Biden. They changed swap Biden out.
But we're saying we're using the name for the.
But you see what I'm saying? Like people are stuck on it's Biden versus Trump or Kamala versus.
Dealing with the real Trump either, Brian.
Exactly, and I'm totally down with that. We might not be the factions behind.
I understand, and may I respond to that? Because I listened to everything that you said, and I'd like to respond because, from my perspective, we're dealing with Satanists and Luciferians. Satanists being the Democratic side, Luciferians being the Republican side. Well, I have a higher knowing of what I'm saying, so I'm going to say it.
But the other thing is this: you're boiling again. You're taking a presidential election. Okay,
no, I'm not talking about the groups of people.
But hear me out. Hear me out. In this case, what everyone's focused on right now, next month is the presidential election, guys. Okay, so yes, it is that, but you have to even understand when you say yes, there's a lot of Satanism and Luciferianism in the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, but you have to understand the context of Trump. Is that Trump was shunned by the Republicans themselves because of those reasons. And because he's being brought in by the white hats to clean out those elements of that party that he's part of. So again, if people are saying, well, I'm not going to vote for Trump because he's a Republican and all Republican, the party as a whole is Luciferian satanic, then therefore I'm not going to vote for Trump in this election versus where clearly, you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying is you can't get lost in that.
Even at a higher perspective, higher than maybe you're not understanding fully what I'm saying. We are dealing with Luciferians and Satanists, whether they're government, military, or government presidential candidates or not. Those are the two. This is my perspective, and I would love to hear your feedback. And Sean is next. But we're dealing with the vampiric consciousness at the highest level right now. And it breaks itself down into these two different battling for power, domination, and control. And it looks like one thing over here because that's the dream spell that they want us to see, all the great things that they're doing. Listen, I've been doing it since 2011, Brian, and there's so much stuff that people were talking about then that's still being talked about, that stuff that's not happening. So
first off, I got a couple of things. 2011 is still very recent in terms of revolutionary movement history. And in fact, if you gauge from what's happened from 2011 to now, I'd say the movement has noticeably grown from a little bean sprout into a sapling for sure.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
So it's hard to, I don't want to criticize the movement like that and say what we've got bookis. I'd say it's not true. The other thing is yes, you've got red and blue and you got the whole illusion pony show we've got the whole time. But what happens when you've got military forces who do want to reinstall the Constitution, people in our government who went in to the government, military, whatever aspect, wanting to have a great country under whatever Democratic Republic, doesn't matter, okay? And those military groupings take in this case, a wooden stake or for the other side, dildo stake, the suppository, and it has Trump written on it. Okay. Now, not only do I find Trump distasteful, do I like him mowing over beautiful land in Ireland or Scotland for an effing golf course? No, fuck that guy. Okay. At the point where he's being used as a weapon to shove it up the ass of the Illuminati, yes, he's got my vote. Can I distinguish the two? Can I separate the emotional anguish and the pony show and all to see where the movement is at this particular point now to poke the giant in the eye? Yes, that's why he has my vote in this particular time in election. Maybe not in the future, but in this time and for those reasons, But I want people to understand that there's a lot of reasoning that goes behind it. Not I'm some dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. I mean, I before they stole the election from the primaries from Bernie, I was a Bernie-crat, for God's sake. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like need people to understand that. And when you have the understanding of the needs of the movement and the revolution, then you're able to make what seems to people on the outside, oh, he went from being a Bernie-crat to supporting Trump. He sold out or whatever. It's like, no, dude, that's what the movement needs right now. At the point where we need to blunt the Hillary forces and say F you to them, all right, Bernie, Bernie, Bernie. At the point here, Bernie sells out, and now the white hats are behind Trump. The orange man, fine. The orange man. Do I care? No. Whatever's best for the movement.
Okay. I appreciate your perspective and everything, and I appreciate that. Sean, do you want to speak to this?
Sure.
Okay.
So I like to stay balanced because I like to support everyone's awakening. So I apologize if it seems like fence sitting, but I'm thankful for Brian for speaking his opinion because it's much needed in a world that will censor opinions. So yeah. My family grew up Democrat. Now I'm more of a populist. So I see what populist movements come up. For the Democrats, Bernie was a populist. For the, whatever you want to call the Trump movement, it's a populist movement. JFK's is a populist movement, and now they're teamed together. Interesting. But every time an establishment pushes the populist movement down in whatever way, like they did with Bernie. So it's a top evil cult, dark cabal, deep state versus the people, and they're dividing them through media. Even though media is mostly left leaning, it's still I think they're like with Fox News, they're a bit controlled as well, though, because they've gotten rid of Tucker and some other people. So that's interesting. Though there are people that leave the Democratic Party and leave the Republicans. So I also go to the representation of both of those, at least for the U.S. in the human body, and how we can take that back. The government represents the control system of the human body and the collective consciousness, which centers in the solar plexus with the will and the power. So there's a main central control center in your soul, in your solar plexus, and then that branches off to a bunch of other control systems, both mental, which is what government means, mind control, or control mind, like in govern, control, meant mind. So it's, and then it goes in also to attempt to control spirit, the soul, the ego, the body, and the physical action of beings. So that they're consolidating control is a mechanism, and if it's for the people or against the people is how well the system's doing, and how well we have to clear ourselves as an individual, and then fractal that cure up to collective consciousness. So I'll start with the Republicans because the Democratic one is a little bit more observant of the dark, but I want to make the Democrats feel a little bit better about their party. So when going into the control system for the Republicans, they're so both have masks based on what they're trying to accumulate and bring in to their constituents of, I represent you, which is ultimately a lie. It's more of what their actions versus what they're saying. But what they say, and both sides say something different than their actions. The Republicans are about restoring and maintaining the republic, the elected official republic of the United States, where everyone's like a king kind of concept, as opposed to democracy, which people say is a good thing, but it's really mob rule, and all those civilizations collapse and then turn into an oligarchy and throughout history. But they say that in the media. Their mask is conserving good things of the old, which is understandable and important. The thing infecting them as a control mechanism that's hijacked, that needs to be retaken by the human body, because it is as above so below, is I've tuned into it in definition as religious dogma, supremacy, will control. And that, again, the Republicans are different than the Trump movement, which is a populist movement. So that's why I'm making a distinction. So the old Republican system, or whatever, that's the part of the uniparty, which is ultimately controlled by this evil cult that's manipulating both, and then putting them as two puppets to control and streamline people through two options. So it's some type of religious dogma, supremacy, will control system in the human body. That's like false beliefs that are held onto. So you transmute it into the opposite, which is pursuit of truth, gold nuggets in every spirituality, and figuring out the beyond spirituality, which is the cure for it. Now, for the Democrats, which I was a little surprised by reading this, but it's there, so I'm not like, whatever. I'm not trying to beat them up, but there's a pendulum, and the elite, at least in the Democrats' mind, used to be more Republican. Now it's swung over with COVID, and the elites are really reining in the Democrats. So unfortunately, if you don't see it with the media, with most of the corporations and the movies, you need to look a little better. So their mask is to be for democracy, for freedom, for liberalism, which is, do what thy will. And it's kind of, libertarianism is more moderate and between that, and they're not really with that classical liberalism quote anymore. So then it also goes to progressivism, which is to make things better or change, which can also be testing ideas. And ideas might not be the best thing in the world, especially if they haven't worked before. So it could be regressive.
Or Sean, if I may, it's the ideas in them themselves, the liberalism or progressivism. That's one thing. This is a whole other thing when both parties have been hijacked by loserfarians who are wearing masks. So now, while they have that mask,
right,
what they're really doing, right? That's a mask, exactly. And so
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So this is the mask, the liberal, the progressive thing. And now I'm going to tell you what's the hijacking force that influences the action. Which
because I personally, I identify as a progressive revolutionary. If you're going to say, I guess you're going to have put it in a few words. And so all what you're pointing out, what they call progressivism is this Wetiko sickness. And so I always personally cringe whenever I hear progressivism get lumped in with that, which that's exactly what they want. Oh, we're the progressive Democratic Party. It's like nothing is progressive about, taking parents' kids and transitioning them in the 8th grade and giving them shots of a bioweapon. Yeah, none of that is anyway. See what I'm saying?
So it's math, right?
Yep.
Or that we have hundreds or God knows how many hundreds of people, if not thousands, in North Carolina that need real aid and they're not receiving what they need. Right? And Florida, and all the way, and this goes from them down to, let's say, landlords that don't want to give people their freaking deposit back, even though, that's how it trickles down into the minds. It's a parasitic energy. So go ahead, Sean.
Right. So these masks are what people want. It's how they get them to vote for them, but they don't have to deliver on their action. So it's really what their action is doing and the underlying parasitic control mechanism underneath that's ultimately controlled by this evil cult. If they can completely control their puppet, which can be here or there. But so they're attempting to pretend to be progressive, attempting to be awakened, which the woke word, which really, it's just like a lot of gatekeeping of what true awakening can be. So what's under the mask of the Democratic Party or progressive or leftism or communist, socialist, Democrat, social, all the names that they keep making new names because of the bad taste in people's mouth from previous titles. It's my intuition went to death cult. So it went to a influence that goes back to both from an invasion from Atlantis fall, Egypt fall, and a few other times like Roman fall, where a big parasite invaded in as influence and control over people's wills. And with the Republican system, getting them to be dogmatic and limit in perceiving more truths. And with Democratic, it's any will internally that drives you towards death, which death of society, death of the individual themselves, the ability to perpetuate the race, the collapse of the civilization, all that. And again, no real Democrat or Republican wants these things. It's just the hijack of the control leadership. So the people, they have views that are more positive. I see them as better than these leaders. So I don't have any beef with them. It's just, what are the effects of all these things that drive civilization and their policies? And some help humanity and our population and our society grow, but there's a lot of things in media that are like, oh no, we shouldn't be here, we're a virus, depopulate, don't have any kids, neuter yourself, take all these drugs that lower fertility, so it's like ultimate death spiral.
Yep, to everything you just said, Sean.
So you can take back that will, transmute it, collapse the parasite, drain it from any source of power and control, collapse it down and shrink it out of your own being, and transmute it into will for life. Because this hijacked part of our will that's like, oh yeah, take another cigarette. I could get home drunk. It's fun, or whatever. Those type of will impulses. That's the reflection external.
Well, you must have psionically picked up, because that's what the next question was going to be. And I think you just beautifully articulated what you just said. Can you explain in what ways can individuals strengthen their personal sovereignty to protect themselves from parasitic influences, both on a physical and societal level? And so how do we begin that to really take just our first step into taking our power back and doing the inner work to navigate inside ourselves in order for it to become an expression on the outer world? You and Dr. Amir did a wonderful show I watched last night about magic. What is magic? And maybe you'll mention a little bit about that for those that are listening on here, because I think, having an influence on our outer world, be it a positive effect, or if we're looking to dominate and control black magic and take other people's powers away. But I know I just said a lot, but I think you get where I'm going with this. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
And we'll also get back to the hurricane after too.
But okay,
parasites.
This
is everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do this. This help a lot of people. Okay. Yeah, sorry, there's a little delay. So parasites, they're everywhere, physical and spiritual. Parasite extraction protocol, surgical pulling out, finding visualization of where they are, and then going up the macrocosm. That's one of the first things people should do if they feel like they're blocked in the third eye, is feel into their heart, daydream, empathy, clairvoyance, vision, and see what's there, even if it's weird. Because like some people turn off their vision, like, I don't want to see that, or that'll put me in fear, or that's crazy or weird. And so you just look into those visions. Sometimes they tune into parasites on you that would be stealing vision authority, and then you see more, and then you remove them. You can portal them away, you can banish them, you can capture, trap, send to quarantine realms or wherever they need to go, depossess, exorcism, purification, bringing to light, There's a lot of methods, and I use them. And if anyone needs that kind of stuff, you can contact me on my site. And especially the deep possession, that's a pain in the ass to learn. And those like deep rooted, like in the soul and other places where they would want to attach for long term, which like show up in symptoms of negative emotions, negative thoughts, influence, alters. Heaviness on the heart, never quiet mind, stolen energy, all kinds of things where they'll influence the person as like a hijacking handler of some type that goes. And every one of these parasites they don't own themselves. They're fractured. They can't create their own light. And they're like puppeted by something bigger in a hierarchy of some type of energy harvesting system. So that can keep going up. Each of them is a training course. They fill the holes of lack or non-wholeness from wounds that we have. So as we heal those wounds and clear and figure out why they're there, their motivation or their reflection to learn, there's a lot of methods to clearing them out. People can have a natural mechanism of keeping these at bay by feeling positive emotions. That's your defense. It pushes them away. It makes them feel very uncomfortable. They have to attach. It elevates them. You heal yourself. It heals anything attached to. It purifies them. So they have to detach to maintain themselves. And then they have to come back and whittle down your emotions down to a negative frequency and feed off that like loosh. So there's a lot going into that. The big harvesting system. This planet is full of them. It keeps getting added to more because it's a pivotal location that affects the whole multiverse. So a lot of things willing to give up locations and influence other places to keep what they're maintaining here. So it's more about becoming immune to it in yourself and learning the skills to keep them at bay, and then being camouflaged, not being a target, and growing stronger and stronger so you can take out bigger predators. And then their core of how they're getting in here, the back doors and the big predators that are trying to make more of them, usually by taking a spirit and fracturing them into millions of little pieces and then mind controlling them into little parasites.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean. I always enjoy listening to you and learning from you.
I like,
yeah. Brian?
Taking what Sean just was saying, and I've had consults with Sean. I'm very glad I have, because when dealing with these types of more etheric, astral, spiritual parasites, one thing is I like to consult as many people who have the more of the third eye open, where they have the vision, where they can see a lot of these things manifested. A lot of people in our community, they can see the attachments literally. I'm sure, I think Sean can as well. Dr. Jen Gahiri can, and Matthew Mornian. I mean, I could go on and on.
Christopher Jacobs.
Christopher Jacobs, Margie Kay, Joanna Michaels. I think she can see it as well as Christopher, and definitely many others.
Sure.
How do someone who I can't see, but I know that these spiritual entities are there? It's all spiritual warfare. And so when you see, like Sean called out, the mass and the parasitic influences and their agendas, just in naming it and bringing that light, that already is a strengthening and fortifying right there.
Sure.
Then going out in the community and calling it out for what it is, that's a whole nother level. Now you're affecting, that's the micro up into the macro. And that's spiritual warfare, really, is by dealing with a lot of these things spiritually. Like let's say you get hit with a parasite because they molested you when you were young, and now you've got a sexual misery parasite. Okay. One way is to find a spiritual practitioner who can help you remove that entity. Another way is for you to engage in spiritual warfare with that entity by clinging to the principles of love and light and manifesting them in your own life. I like what Jerry Marzinski says. He's a very experienced psychiatrist who's done a lot of work in like prison systems and psych emergency rooms. And he developed what he calls the "that's a lie" method, where a lot of people they're hearing voices. What he noticed is the vast majority, 9 out of 10 of those voices, were negative. They're always telling the person, "You're not good enough. That person hates you. Hurt your children. Your boss wants to kill you or fire you or whatever." And what he found is you have to confront it and rebuke it and tell those negative voices and messages, that's a lie. That's a lie. And then knowing that's a lie, embrace what is the truth. Okay. And knowing where these negative beings are. And in doing that, that's a huge way of combating the parasites. You don't have to be necessarily like psychically gifted, as much as other people, because we're all psychically gifted, right? The other part of it is another way to combat these parasites. I had another good way. I just forgot it though. Was oh hey Johnny. I'll come back to that. I'll come back.
Sean, do you want to respond to Brian? And then
Yeah,
I'll
I
ask
agree.
you another question after that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, if
love
you
is-
guys are okay with it, we'll run till 4:00 or 4:45. I don't know how long. Usually I do 90 minutes, but we've already been going for almost an hour, which is pretty amazing. It's like being in no time, right? When you're co-creating together, time passes you by. You're not in time. You're in a bubble of our own reality and co-creating together. And I think that's lovely. So thank you both for coming on. Go ahead, please, Sean. Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree, Brian. The love is one of the best, strongest, can conquer all frequencies. So you admit it, and the very challenge to love is what makes it stronger. So it will be the attachment and pressure on the heart, which the heart will feel everything around you in the parasites and all those. They'll just, for those that aren't practiced enough with it, they'll feel like a heaviness. And they'll feel like a little stirring, and it sometimes reacts to you. And sometimes it'll be anxiety or some type of negative emotion. And there'll be cores. And a lot of the negative emotions have demons attached to them. And so you can go to the remedy of why they're there, especially if they're dumped on you and they don't have a specific purpose. Even everything can teach you a lesson at its core, which you usually fill in the cracks of anything insecurity that you can great, but it can also influence and make drama between people. So it's knowing how to react and overcome the emotions and what to do with them, and put them in the right circuit to send them where they need to go, or transmute them, and then turning that heaviness on the heart of attachment into the very firewood that makes your heart love fire even stronger, and resolving the entity, which I like to do. I don't like to destroy them unless they're really far gone or really evil. But then I train myself to take on bigger and bigger evils each time. I just like, if it's really far bad, my higher self will tell me, just destroy this one. And then you can break it down, and then you can take on that same level next time and not have to destroy it, which they just go into void space. But I usually like to bring them wholeness, healing, this sped up time, reflection of their self, their lessons and moral code, remembering they're ultimately me, and getting their parts back and everything they need, that they attach to me for a reason, that I have something that they don't have, that they want, and bringing them to a pathway they can earn it towards goodness. And then if they're really evil, send them somewhere else to do it in that way off of me. And then it gets lighter and lighter and stronger, and able to take on more of those all at once, faster, easier, and so that they have to send way bigger things next time. And then I get all these cool different types of energy sent at me that I can master as well, such as anti-love or whatever. And then the heart field gets stronger and more powerful, and then I can reach into the heart of deeper evils and find why they became evil, and even send that love back in their timeline and shift their timeline to where they never became evil, or the far gone evils uncreate or destroy if they're really bad.
I love your genius, Sean. I love listening to you.
That's getting into timeline work now. If you're able to affect it at that level, at the individual level, I remembered what it was. It was two things. One is shielding, which I'm big on, so that parasites don't ever attach in the first place. I know I've done my own shielding, protection meditations and ceremonies or incantations, and just intention and maintaining that. And that I think goes a huge way. And the other thing is, even if you're hit with like these parasitic thoughts, just like it says in the good book there, part of it, it's like a bird flying overhead. You can note the bird is there, it's flying overhead, but you don't have to like invite it to land in your tree, make a nest, and poop all over the place. Just let it fly over, notice it, and let it keep going. And there's nothing wrong with that. And being able to be comfortable with your thoughts and observe what's yours, what might not be yours, what you feel comfortable with, and what you want to promote. And that's a lot of know thyself. And when you know thyself, it makes it a lot harder for the parasites to get in.
I love that, Brian, because I know this to be true for myself. When I'm really in, sitting with myself and I allow thoughts and I don't give them energy. If there's
Right.
something, Michael Lee Hill would say, uh, I don't consent to that. Is there something better, or is there something else?
Yeah,
Ask the
that's good
universe.
wording.
Yeah, is there something else available? Something that feels better, is more
I want the
supportive.
better deal, Bob.
Yeah, well, pretty much. But even behind that is just the self, the awareness that we are. It's only when we get attached to the thoughts or the thing, right, that we get attached to because we want a certain outcome that's beneficial for us. When we move out of that space into what's beneficial for the whole, right? That's when the rewards start coming in and we feel better. We feel more excited about contributing rather than, I've learned this new way of saying rather than being in service, I am contributing value in everything that I do and the people that I engage. I choose that. And if I'm not, I need to fall back and maybe observe for a moment and check myself. So important, right? That we do that self reflection. And
That's the very first thing. That's the most important thing. When you talk about the armor of God, the most important piece of equipment is your helmet. Your helmet is salvation. You don't have your head on straight. Doesn't matter if you got $1 million, if you're super healthy, if you're ready to jump in your Porsche and drive it off a freaking cliff, with your Adonis body or whatever, it don't matter. It's all about first your headspace.
sure. And the heart space. Actually, we have brain
Yeah,
matter on our
yeah,
heart and our gut.
yeah, yeah. They
When
should go
they're in
together.
alignment and we are actually embodying what we truly want to express, that the balance between the heart and the mind, and we go into a neutral position, which Sean often talks about being neutral. um, you want to respond to that, Sean?
Yeah, being neutral, being in the moment, centering into the heart, getting past illusion and the layers of the Maya and the attachment and pulses of geometry, pulsing out and pushing away what's not you as it gets lighter and lighter, like you're taking off heavy coats in the heart. And with that greater lightness and love amplifying and bliss and happiness and joy, it allows for greater clarity of the situation and seeing
Uh-oh.
Sean, Brian.
It's just lag. It's buffering.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, 0. Go back, Sean. Uh-oh.
Let me text him. He can go out and come back in.
Yeah.
Guys, I hope y'all are enjoying the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And hi, Jordan. We're gonna. Jordan is
Jordan,
Jordan
yeah.
Shea. Yeah, she has been very supportive of the full disclosure movement, and we want to make sure that she's able to join us at the 2025 event. And we want to make sure to be there in Florida again, as one material way of showing our support for all the storm struck, people down there. Yeah.
Well, Jordan Shea, is that how you say your last name? Jordan Shea. If you're hearing this message, you're welcome to contact me on Messenger and we can talk about some of the things that some of the support that might be helpful for you and see if we can't get some energy flowing your way. So you're
Yeah.
welcome to PM me. I work closely. I'm Brian Singh's co-producer of the Full Disclosure Now conference. So when he says things like this, that's cue for me to know that there's somebody that maybe I um, would be helpful to connect with. Okay, device not connected. All right,
That's
guys.
it's okay. So he'll figure out. And we're are we this is an hour long show.
Well,
We're
it's
near the
normally 90 minutes, and we're at
okay. Oh, perfect. Oh, then we're only at an hour. We got half an hour. We got half an hour left then. Perfect. Perfect. Well, then while we're waiting for Sean to get to reconnect,
here. Add to
yeah.
stage. There we
Oh,
go.
there he
Got
is.
him
Oh,
back.
perfect.
Good
Back.
job. Yep.
Sorry, I
No,
got
no,
kicked out for some reason. I
yeah.
don't know the glitch. It's 111 here, so that's weird.
There you go. Angels around you. 111 means that your angels around you. And I believe all of us. I think this is a divinely orchestrated collaboration right now. I feel really good.
It's 12:12 here.
But I do. I feel really good.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Well, thanks to you. That was helpful, but we won't go there. The little gift you gave me was helpful. It gets me, I don't do it often, but it gets me out of the monkey mind. It really just puts me in my heart space, which feels good. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so that what I was talking about, that this will help that even more. So all that heaviness will be attachment to things, and it'll go into like enlightenment, like, oh, what is that feeling, and you can ask questions. Will go deeper, and you go deeper in onion layer to the core towards your true self, which is more with that like states of nirvana or enlightenment or Buddha body and light body and rainbow. So a lot of it will be attachment to what the ego holds on to, because the ego will be a compartmentalization of anything that we're dealing with as we elevate and go up the staircase towards ascension into the challenges. So we give ego that love. It's just the internal thing for external attachment. So it'll be like external control, external power that we would release to go towards the greater control and greater power deep within us as we connect more with the universe, or the war, or the different definitions, the drama, the negative entanglement, the parasites, and we learn how to transcend each of them, and that attachment and heaviness releases, and it gets lighter and nicer, and so we can kind of feel into each, and with love and the opposite, and transmuting and understanding the polarity of that thing that's on us and the opposite of it, and getting there, then it keeps getting lighter and more blissful. And you can hold that area and purify it also by making the sun in your heart of love, in the heart of love brighter, and it burns away everything. Same thing with solar plexus. To get more power, you can clear it with your hands and give it love and get it shining with focus and will and vision and affirmation and songs and all kinds of healing methods all at once.
Okay. So Brian and I were talking when you, thank you for that, by the way, Sean. I can just listen to you and I do. I watch your shows and I listen, and I appreciate you. But we were talking, we're going to end at 3:45 my time, which is Eastern Standard Time, so in a half hour, in 30 minutes, because I don't want to keep you all day. And Brian definitely needs to get back to his little beautiful crystal and his wife. So you guys have taken your time, and I appreciate it, but I don't want to hold you all day. So let's move to, so what are some of the most common forms of deception or corruption that you see in both the body system and the global societal systems that would be correlating? So it starts within us, and how do we see that expressed out into the world by not being
our polluted food chain,
well, there,
our corrupt media,
of course,
our schools that is causing my wife and I to say we're going to homeschool our daughter because the school systems are so utterly garbage compared to the standards I remember. I'll be totally fine if my daughter grows up and doesn't sink herself $120,000 in debt, into a college degree for a piece of paper that corporations, companies don't even care about anymore. In fact, they're using that to fire you because now you're overqualified. They don't, but the food system's a big one for me.
Yeah.
because it's how the other side is literally introducing parasites into us, and then the medical healthcare system, obviously. So just in terms of material ways beyond the mind viruses, it's the crap in our food and water and air.
Sure.
Yeah, RFK thing might help with that. We'll see.
Hopefully.
What was that?
Yeah.
What was that, Sean? What'd you say? I'm sorry, I missed that. What'd you say?
RFK is going into exposing that, and that
Oh,
pisses
yeah.
off big
I mean,
pharma and big food.
Yeah.
And then he just endorsed
There
Trump,
are
and
a
Trump
lot of
loves his
things
endorsement. So if they pull that, then great. My opinion, dump Vance and stick RFK in there as his running mate VP, and we're off to the races. Now it shuts everyone up.
Yeah.
Well, almost everyone.
Well, so a sibling mentioned to me the other day that she listens to Bashar, and I've never been a Bashar fan.
I'm going to call Bashar out right here.
Yeah.
The reason why is because Bashar has pushed the jabs, and then and makes he's unapologetic about it, and that is totally no. And then Antonio Arillo, who has agreed to be at our conference next year, has he did a like a higher self Akashic record accessing for on Bashar, because Bashar is a public figure, so at that point it's no longer like, does he need permission for an individual private person? They're not, they're public person, saying some wacky stuff like take the jabs. And what he found on this entity Bashar is not good. He found that Bashar has been used as a high level tool of like archonic forces to basically derail the evolutionary paths and timelines that different societies or species take for the archon's own gain. And then Bashar has been richly rewarded for this. But
Sure.
I know that he's lining himself up for a giant cosmic shit Sunday. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, she had mentioned to me that she heard him say something about that we'll have open contact by 2027.
That's possible.
Yeah. Don't care for Bashar. And I'm glad that you just said what you said. It's not, it's not about judgment in any way. It's about observing.
You push a bioweapon that killed my dad, I don't like you.
Well, I agree. I support you wholeheartedly.
Exactly. I mean, that's how I feel about it. Like I feel because there are a lot of people in our community where they want to play nice and keep it more copacetic, and I get that. But no, like I'm happy to name names.
Yeah,
because I feel like that we need more.
Somebody is better. First off, just acquiescing and saying, "Okay, I'll do this," knowing that it's going to be hurtful and harmful and misleading to people. Well, you'll have something, at some point you're going to be answering to your own soul, quite literally, right? And then, yeah. So I'm happy that you said what you said, because I think, we need to, I'm not saying get online. I could probably get on Facebook and like point out a lot of crap in a lot of people, but I don't do that are, have big platforms or doing whatever. I don't waste my time, my energy. I used to feel like I wanted to do that, but if it's brought up, I will surely speak to it. And I agree with what you said. Sean, the reason I brought that up was, have you picked up anything about when open contact will take place on this planet? I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Oh, yeah. And I love this topic. So I'm in the mode of wanting to teach people how to pull contact and disclosure to us faster, because there is a tug of war. There's literally dark forces constantly trying to delay it however they can, and some forces see us as chattel and they want to hold us in this prison for whatever amount of time and keep us from a first type 1 civilization. So I tune into this stuff. So I'll give you concepts of what to do if you want to increase disclosure. And I used to like Bashar, and I think there's little bits of good he does, but as soon as he started saying don't pay attention to the Illuminati and the vaccine stuff, I stopped listening. Whatever people want to do, if you want to learn how to channel, do your thing. I don't really like listening to channelers. There's not much evidence, but do whatever you want. It's a cool sonic skill. I think everyone should learn as many skills as they want. But there's also the skill that people aren't teaching, which is how to not get hijacked.
But isn't that real quickly what they do? Let's just use this. Let me respond to that. You said, I used to listen to him until he said this. Well, isn't that what psychopathics do? These narcissistic people that will charm people or give them tell them exactly what they want to hear and what's the word? Groom them to trust in them and so forth. So then they come out with this big bang and then people believe in what they're saying, because how can I deny what Bashar or anybody is saying now after listening for so long and not thinking for themselves, that they buy into what he's suggesting, not paying attention to the Illuminati and to the vaccines and all that stuff. So that's a way it's like being in a relationship with somebody and the person.
The Piper thing.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, the Piper thing. Yeah, that's a good theory. I don't know. I don't know him that well. He could be in a complete bubble of his own opinion and be surrounded with people and not go outside that. He could be influenced. He could be getting hijacked. He could be. I know a bunch of people that they're handled and they stay in the love and light concept. They're not willing to look at the dark or even bring it up. Yeah. Somehow they think that it's going to make it more. It's like, it's under a rug. If you let it fester, it's going to get worse. It doesn't make it not real. The reality is going beyond just what we agree to and believe. That's solipsism. We're agreeing to our ancestors, everyone that's made part of the reality before, the whole collective agreement. And then back and forth in your brain. Your belief and faith amplify and reality warp, of course, but most people aren't producing that much belief to begin with. And they don't go to the core of their belief system tree and prune it and how it works, and then the reality reflecting it. It's not just belief that's in the equation. That's unfortunate. But, that's probably what's going on with handling him. But I don't hate everyone. I think everyone can heal. Maybe that'll be influenced to where he has a great awakening in it. It's wonderful.
I don't hate anybody, but I don't care. I mean, I dislike things and I, set really healthy boundaries, and some of them are cut you off in a heartbeat. Because sometimes after you've exerted enough energy to make a thing right, balanced and whole, and some people just aren't interested in that. Therefore, you have to withdraw yourself.
And that's a test. That's a test. Yeah. If Bashar was willing to have an honest discussion on all of this stuff in the open or even behind the scenes, and then basically renounce all this jab crap in the World Health Organization and then not paying attention to the Illuminati, then he can be rehabilitated. But until then, people need to be seen not as individuals, but for what they're bringing or how they're hurting the movement.
Sure.
And in that case, it's very harmful. All of what he's doing is very harmful. And through Arkeem Ra, our friend and fellow presenter, he's in touch with Edward Hughes. This is basically perhaps a soul fragment, an alternate self of Arkeem from a more a parallel Earth that's more positive. Year 2028, and in that timeline, they got rid of they called out all these wrongdoers. The NZI party never made it in their Germany. The World War II didn't happen in that reality. They got rid of the Vatican way early on. It didn't last to 2,000 plus years till today. It never had those effects. And in that timeline, it's a much more positive timeline. What do you know? Where people called out the really sick and negative thought ideologies for what they are and having honest discussions, they're better for it. And, our timeline has a lot of catching up to do because we've fallen prey to all these forces that other timeline got to say ixnay to. And, maybe the positive gain is after all this suffering, when the timeline finally, when we heal ourselves, we get to look back on all the carnage and learn these lessons that hopefully never again, or hopefully we get to learn from these lessons in this timeline. And that's a gain. That'll be a gain that other timeline never had. But man, they never had to go through it because those people were courageous way earlier on.
Thank you, Brian. Very good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always love bringing into the differences for each timeline and how we can learn from them. So.
Yeah.
And,
that timeline,
what do you guys think?
Hoverboards. They've got blimps and airships flying around. They've got anti-gravity cars. Yeah. Anyway, I like
what do you
that
guys
timeline
think
more.
will help bring about disclosure faster in the tug of war? Before I go into my thing.
For me is we continue to give people opportunities to share their experiences and let people know. I mean, this is the thing when people, unless you're with somebody and you're all having an experience, a contact experience. For me, I was in my apartment and I was in the kitchen and the microwave and the coffee maker started talking to me, quite literally, when I had my contact. All I saw was it looked like a heart monitor going up and down when they would talk to me. And they were what they were doing was using the electricity to communicate with me. And they put pictures of my niece and my nephew in my head so I wouldn't freak out. And I had took some earrings off and put them in a planner, which I found out was one of the ways that what we do so that it reminds us that we had an experience there and a contact experience there. And, but my point in saying all of that, well, I called my niece up the next day and she's like, "Oh, Aunt Ida, you got to be kidding." I was like, "I'm telling you, I was talking to, and telling her the whole thing." People have a hard time unless they're there and having the experience themselves. You can tell stories now. The only reason I believe other people when they share their experiences because I've had one. So I know that it's a thing. It's a real happening, that contact is happening. Orbs in my house, the whole bit. So my point, by sharing those experiences and sharing with people and being open to allow people to share their experiences without going into judgment or denying them, more people are more open to it being a real thing. I don't know as far as like globally, like I think just sharing, just storytelling.
Can I jump in, Ida?
Yeah.
Just from an organizer perspective, there's getting all the testimonies out there, which we're all doing. Excellent job in the community. But then what we're doing is we're looking at in the context of a larger movement that's growing nationwide and worldwide, right? And it's been there and we're really galvanizing the movement at this point. But then there's also the role of organizations. And so there's a point where all these people are coming out of the woodwork. Now it's about organizing them and putting them into structures that we control that can be a counter to these, the dominant structures that are working for the other side against us. So at the point where we're linking up all the star seeds and now we're referring each other to get healing and to get our recalls back. And we're referring each other to like, oh, this person's good at making websites and this person's got a huge show with following. It'll get you instant exposure for your very important testimony. And this person can make sure that your family is getting housed, while you're dealing with all the targeting you guys are in the midst of your book that's coming out. Right. And so it's getting more material. We're taking more and more coordinated material actions at the ground level and then building up on them and then multiplying that same model all over the world. That's how you get ground up change from a movement and organized fashion. And the stronger you build the movement, at the same time you're building these organizations, the better it'll go. I mean, the movement will go organically on its own just due to the contradictions of society, but how fast you catalyze forward motion, in my mind, and depends on how much and how well you're organized.
Thank you, Brian. Great answer. Okay, Sean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like a parallel industry made that abundance and supplies itself with greater and greater growth, like a parallel economy, parallel media, parallel banking system, parallel legal system, all the things that are needed in the new timeline as we detach from the parasite. And as these are funded, there could be billboards up of ET disclosure, things in Times Square, things that wake up whole masses of people in bigger and bigger amounts, and as well as share their story, help people to figure out their own story. Because as I found, pretty much everyone on the planet has been abducted in some way as like a handling mind control, kind of keep you in a sleep type of way. Whether there's more than just one also goes into who they are, and if the beings found out who they are in soul or rare DNA or reasons to take their DNA, etc. And the military also abducting people. So yeah, and then absolutely that'll be a big pivotal moment. That's like 50%, even, and then that will keep chugging along, and even if they hold back disclosure all throughout that. So eventually, enough people will just wake up, so it's just natural. And then when ET show up, kind of thing, or the government discloses, or a false alien invasion, or whatever kind of trickle disclosure they decide to do, that is also a tug of war. So going into my experience and reading into these things, so I'll give you a crash course into it. A lot of it was influenced by ETs, like dark ETs, like over 452, 90 types of reptoid, 253 types of gray, 62 types insectoids, and 47 unregular ones. And a lot of the unregular ones were easier. They were ended up like mind parasites that dug into different species leadership, and then they tried to perpetuate themselves. There's a lot of remedy for these different species by figuring out their timeline. They remain in the unseen, so it's shiftable to the timeline more so. So you can go back to, you can see their timeline, how they became evil, what's attacking them, haunting them, possessing them, whatever, and clear them, have control, and they get more positive. They invade less planets. They don't have the need to enforce their will on others. They can increase their own populations if it's a fertility thing on their own through goodness with the planet that they're associated with. They can be redirected to like the mind parasites. It was redirecting them to a planet where the species was more evil than them, and they would be. Their goal was to bring them to being less evil. So that's their purpose. So that was interesting. So like parasites can have a purpose if it's to inhabit an evil being and bring them to being less evil, which not all the time happens. But if it's gone at the core of the species lineage and their moral code structure and collective consciousness and all that, then and then they could also eventually turn symbiotic. So then there's like a bunch of things with the different like reptoids and grays. So grays were easier. There's a bunch of different types. There's over 4,000 types. So a lot of them come from the future. They seem to have an offshoot lineage connection to us in some way back and forward in time. And a lot of them use time travel. And some of them have a lot of the ones that were being were evil are being dominated by other races. And some point in their timeline, they got enslaved. And so that is a point in time that's not needing to be set in stone. So if enough positive forces go back in time to the point when they got mass enslaved and prevent it, then that prevents a lot of that.
And Sean, have you heard of the Mitra? I heard that's one of the races of grays that got taken over and hybridized by the Dracos with Draco or with reptilian blood. So they're like reptilian grays, and they're carnivorous. They like to eat people, and they're nasty. And they got so nasty that they were out of the control of the Dracos who made them. And so they're their own gray reptilian civilization that's nasty out there.
Oh, yeah. They abducted me a lot.
Oh, really?
Sean,
okay. Yeah.
What? Well, two things. So you'll tell because we're going to end in about 10 minutes unless you guys want to go longer. It's up to you. I don't want to keep you or okay, but
I'm good to go. What's
the difference between reptoids and reptilians? I know there's different kinds. I mean, I have a whole
I'm here. So I'm going to take a stab. I'll take a stab at it. If you're a reptilian, there's a reptilian origins of like reptilian genetics, and the main base reptilian, what qualifies as reptilian versus humanoid or insectoid. Okay. And then what turns it from reptilian to reptoid is where it's going to be an offshoot or related or hybridized or may appear to be reptilian, but might not necessarily be. Okay, but related. So that's where I would say reptoid. Or if you took a reptilian and hybridized reptilian with an insectoid, right? Or a humanoid, then that might be a reptoid as well. But that's my stab at it.
Yeah. I appreciate that. What would you say, Sean? What's the difference?
Oh yeah. There's common origins, and a lot of them relate. Some will go back to founder races, such as the Naga. Some will go back to a dragon. Some will be like a lizard kind of race. They're wildly different, and not to be specious, because there's good and bad and neutral in a lot of the species. And what happened to them, what occurred on them, if they're enslaved, will go in hand with that. A lot of the Draco are very dominated and very possessed. So they end up enslaving a lot of the other races and then putting them under this umbrella federation or whatever they want to call it. And there's even the Draco can get cured. There's a timeline that exists where they fall into all these negative ETs are falling into our love empathic trap. Things that entangle with us and try to dominate us, they enter where we change them genetically and emotionally, and they become more empathetic. So if we get empowered enough psionically.
What about when people say, well, the Dracos or reptilians, so many, I mean, we'll just use P. Diddy as a example right now. And not that I really wanted to go there because I'm just so sick with that whole thing, but that was all Satanists. They were sodomizing men. You know, it's a difference between you're a man and you have an attraction to other men.
Yeah, he's part of an Illuminati occult society named the Boule. Yeah, the Boule or whatever they are.
Yeah, right. Well, the Boule, they've been it's an offshoot of the Masons. My mind's
the Black Masons.
Actually, that's right. So I was going to say something. Now I forgot what I was going to ask you.
You're talking P. Diddy?
Draco.
Yeah, P. Diddy. So what about these? So the reptilians that we know that have, because you're saying that they're falling into our love energy and love bubble or whatever. But what about those that have completely like lost their hearts? They have no heart energy. Everything is domination, control, and raping, right? Rap is raping the consciousness and the mind of the listener and dream spelling them and causing them to have certain belief systems that are obviously not good for them. And they act that out and on the outside. So what would you say to those reptilians or Dracos or any species for that matter that have given up their empathy and just everything is about their psychic, their ability to dominate and control over others? There's no heart connection, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, evil has the seed of its own destruction. So if something becomes evil enough and does enough evil action, then they're getting punished by the universe with generators of sickness, death, an overwhelm of negative emotions generating in their own being. A lot of them do deals with demons to get that off you, like with the cremation of care, and they put it onto the populace. And this is the cure to one of the species. If enough people that are getting dumped on negative emotions like suicidal programs, which like a really evil Draco would deserve, that by being made in their own emotional body of a generator of sadness that just overwhelms them to bring them to kill themselves. And they put that on the populace. If enough people that have that being dumped on them push it back and compress it on the being to where it wants to be that, and they prevent any demon or other force to getting it off to where it wants to do and fulfill its reason and purpose for being, then that will drive the psychopath, evil person, especially if a lot of the sadness is formed into emotional body amplification, since psychopathy goes into not being able to feel emotions. You can turn sadness into an empathic body for a psychopath. And so you construct that and you make it more amplified, and then they feel it more and more deeply. It brings them to Pavlov's dog action of either suffer doing your negative action or stop and it be relieved. And if they stop doing that evil action and it goes down, they're like, oh, this is working. I'm better reorient. And then also it's even better made if the collective of everyone that's getting that dumped on them shine love at the being, and then with acceptance of who they are as they are, not needing to change them, they give them the love. Acceptance is the key to penetrating into an evil being's heart. You got to get through like layers of an onion, and then you get to the core, and then you shine goodness and love, and it becomes this antidote for evil. And you can shift whole Draco. I get attacked by Draco all the time, and I just use it as training to reach in their heart and change them. And when the attack stops with enough love, then I know it was successful. And then, but if you need to destroy these beings, I mean, they're not easy to kill or destroy. So they got like multiple hearts. Yes. So then they did that for a reason. So if they've done enough evil, you have in your right to protect yourself and stop the offender by whatever means. These are also beings that are trying to steal people's telekinesis and death energy and a lot of other overpowered superpowers. If you're like wondering, where did my telekinesis go? Eventually you'll track it back to a big Draco queen and Pindar that goes back to Draco and this big hierarchical order of energy and ability harvesting. So they didn't earn their abilities, they stole them. But that is a hard problem. So that needs to be figured out eventually. But while we're doing that, we should engulf them and change them. There's a timeline where they eventually fight for us against worse evils.
Wow.
Well, that's interesting. Well, I know. I think about it.
Easier.
Yeah, I think about just some of the people that I've dealt with in my life, and some of the people I've dealt in my life. I don't want to get into a long whatever because y'all know I can talk, but and just realizing there's so many, I'll say reptilians that are in a lot of pain, but I don't know that they want to change, Sean.
So what I've heard reports of is people working with certain of these reptilians who are like they're Draco reptilians and they're negatively oriented, and they now want to come to the light and they want to join the forces of light to help kind of put the Draco reptilian empire in check from its ravenousness. That some of them are meditating and accessing their light bodies to the point where they're actually phasing out of this reality existence and going upwards, like totally transcending, like up to like fifth density and above consciousness. And so I think that's fascinating. I also understand that in the Draco reptilian empire, there's a huge schism between those who love and worship the archonic black goo and who drink it and like inject it or ingest it. And then those who are like, no, like we need to go back to the, this natural organic Draco reptilians. And so I think that, like Sean is saying, that the seeds of their own destruction are implanted in themselves. So for them, it becomes a certain point where it's evolve or die. And there's at the individual micro level, like how do you deal with your individual narcissistic bloodsucker, service to self person or Draco, and then how do you deal with them collectively? And generally it's one of two ways. There's a velvet glove, like you stroke them nicely. Hey, these are the nice things that you're going to get if you amend your ways. And the iron fist is, or the iron boot to the nuts, the pindar, is if you don't amend your ways is what's going to happen, whether in this lifetime reality or the next. And it's not going to be pretty. And
They live
it's,
a whole different culture. The Draco culture
I
is
know.
much different
I
than
know.
what we fully
I know they eat their children and do ritual killings of their own children who they consider weak. If you show any love, yeah, it's
blood sacrifice, worship. So, Sean, do you give homage to any DT outside of you? I'm just curious if you don't mind me. I know that's a personal question, but I'm
To
curious.
DT?
A deity,
Oh, a deity.
a god, or any? Do you give homage to? Do you worship anything outside of yourself?
No,
Or give?
I don't worship. I see them not to like brag or anything or like raise myself above, but I treat them as any other being. Because I teach telepathy and I have conversations with them,
Yeah.
and it's really humanizing for them. And I don't. I'll show them respect and honor and depending on how big of an ego they have, I'll like get on their good side by doing that stuff. But I don't really need to worship or praying to them. Never really came up. It's always commerce and trade. If they sometimes will contact me first if they have found out about me somehow and what I can do, and they want my help with something that I'm better at, that their genetic lineage of somehow is better at something else, and they'll trade me that thing that they're good at for something I'm good at. So a lot of it, and everyone in the audience and you guys are like something your soul like made so good that you're better at it than most deities. So there's like things you can trade with even deities. And we're in a super hybrid technology. So there's things that we can do a lot faster than them, especially with our emotional body amplifying it. So yeah, it's just get up to where you have all this value, and you don't have you treat everyone equally in a round table, and you can see if they're good or bad or neutral. And even with the bad, I have the bad contacting me, but depending on how they do it, I can be respectful. If they need, a lot of them need stuff to like wholeness, their parts stolen, depossession, antidote for evil. A lot of them don't really want to be evil. Dark is different than evil. This is like an incurring factor. A lot of the gods have taken big wounds and hits. Yeah. So yeah, don't worship anything. Mostly just the source within all sources deep in my heart that people
Yes.
call God.
Yeah.
That is everything ultimately.
Yeah.
as I say, that's the one being I worship is God's source. Yeah, Mother, Father, Source, God is it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I give thanks and gratitude for
Yeah, like
sure.
I'll thank entities. Yeah, I'll thank entities, and I'll be cognizant of different entities, and that have been worshipped as gods. But I only treat one God as God.
Okay. Well, so guys, is there anything? We're at 3:49. We'll probably end this at 4:00. And I would love to have you both come back on for sure. I mean, Sean, I love you. I could talk to you all day long, bud. Yeah.
Well, I myself should be signing out just to check in on the wife and daughter. But I don't want to end this recording for you guys at all by any means. I want to say hi to James Whitkiss as well as Jordan and EcoWise and a legendary SSJ. So just want to say hello to everybody and thanks for having me on today, Ida, along with you, Sean. It's great to see you, brother.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Brian.
Love you.
Yep. Have a good day.
Love you guys. All right. Bye all.
Bye.
Hey, Sean.
Hey.
Hi.
How's it going? How have you been?
I'm doing good. I mean, I've been going to the chiropractor about my, that accident and so forth. Maybe we won't get into my personal
How's
stuff.
the pain?
Yeah, but why don't you go ahead?
How's the pain right now, though?
I'm sorry?
How's the pain right now?
I feel pretty good, actually.
Okay, cool.
I'm doing the P90, going to the chiropractor. Today I did muscle strength training for the first time at the chiropractors, and I realize how much I need to really be in the gym right now because I'm so weak. Like I've lost most of my muscle mass, but that came from before when I stopped eating meat and I didn't replace the proteins properly. And I felt really good for the first couple of years, but 2 years, 4 years in, my health started declining really bad. So I'm looking forward to getting back in a good discipline and habit of exercise, deep breathing, stretching, and so forth. So, anyways, all that I'm doing, I feel good. And I started at a Ayurvedic office. My first day was yesterday, and that went really well. So I'm working in 2 different offices, and I love it because people love what I'm doing with Ionic Detox and P90. The P90 is just, well, you tried it the one, while we were together in
That was
St.
good.
Pete's, but I'm telling you, Sean, it's changing people's lives. People love that machine. I've sold a couple of them, and I'm gonna once I get through this because I have to buy a new car. I've got to get through some things, but I intend to start doing more like expos and just introducing the technology to people. So many people have told me they feel so grounded and charged, grounded but charged in their body, and that they feel like their consciousness is expanding, their awareness from doing it consistently. And I surely feel that way. I mean, it's amazing. So that's how I'm doing. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I've been tuning in a lot, unlocking new abilities, exploring a bunch. Probably will go to a pyramid tomorrow. Did some shows where I got a bunch of it's like animal bones for different like jaguar and some other things because I like connecting to the spirit, giving it healing and a bunch of things that it needs, and then eventually it earns the right to bilocate, and then it will have a bilocation be as a guide to me. So I like collecting that bones and fossils of different races and giving them what they need to where they're fully purified, and then I upgrade them and give them lots of tech and abilities and get them stronger and stronger, and then they do cool stuff.
Well, I know you're super powerful, Sean, and I don't know, it's probably been about 10 years since I've actually got to, or when I first worked with you, when I very first had a reading with you, and then our friendship has grown just in the past couple of years. And I think you're amazing. I want you to know that. And anybody that
Me
wants
too. You're so
to have,
powerful.
thank you, Sean. Anyone that wants a real a reading or help with healing or tapping into or a clearing, I mean, Sean is definitely the real deal. I always recommend you, Chris, and now Amir is added on to that because I can't help it. The guy is amazing. I mean, all of y'all are just so super powerful. So you wouldn't go wrong with any of them. But definitely, guys, for those of you that are listening that aren't familiar with Sean, maybe reach out to him. He's on Facebook. You want to talk about the you said you're doing a workshop at the conference coming up in Sedona in March. Do you want to share about what type of workshop you're going to be offering? Maybe people may be interested in coming to see you. If we got any
Oh yeah, it's gonna be big.
Yeah, I know it's gonna. I'm
It's gonna be
excited.
huge. Yeah, Rion's conference. So it's like Rise of the Guardians or something.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, my girlfriend Yisa is presenting with going into unlocking esoteric anatomy, body tech, and advancing the human being and plasma and other stuff that she's really good at, and like increasing the intelligence. I will be doing a workshop as well. Since it's Rise of the Guardians, I'm like, oh well, let's teach everyone how to be galactic guardians or guardians of the galaxy, whatever for the theme. And I'll give them a bunch of tech on how to be overpowered in their higher self and their source, and be doing missions around and making the world better, and ways to tune into that, and vision and retrieval of their power and stuff like that. So it'll be a big upgrade to them being a guardian. So if you're interested in that type of thing, yeah, you can go to our conference. It will be big and huge, and life
Yeah,
changing and
yes.
planet changing.
I will post it on my, for those of you, I'll post it on mine and I'll tag you, Sean, so they know what conference we're referring to.
Thank
Because I don't
you.
have the link right here to be able to share it out. But we had you and Nisa last year, and you guys did presentations, and also we're selling some of your merchandise. Beautiful. I have one of your T-shirts that I love with sacred geometry on it and different symbols that you created. It was
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yep. And so we're going to go ahead and, so where can people find you first off? And then I'll be in touch to have you come back. Maybe I'd love to have you and Dr. Amir together.
Sure, that'll be fun. Yeah, we
Yeah,
do a nice wizard back and forth.
I would love
Um,
that. And he's always so gracious to come on my show. He comes on and yeah, I've stepped up a bit and wanting to, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Sean. Nope.
sure.
Finish what you were saying. I was just
Yeah,
talking.
and Ali in the legendary in the comments say P90. Can you explain that a little bit more for him?
Oh, absolutely. So, the P90, it's I'm sorry, PMF and terahertz. It's a machine that's patent for PMF stands for pulse electric magnetic field frequencies, and then terahertz is basically charges the cells, and the PMF is like a replica of the earth energies, and when they complement one another really well, and it's a machine that looks like a thick scale, and you put your feet on it. Well, Sean, tell them, do you remember your experience when you did it? You want to share a little bit about it? And
Oh yeah, it grounded me like 1 billion to 1 trillion times more than just regular touching your feet on the ground, and felt like attachment was releasing from my legs, and it keep going farther and farther up. There's vibration, electricity, and it cleared the auric field, so it amplified a bunch of root tech turning on. So the root chakra, it's like give it a rejuvenating, amplifying kind of energy bath kind of thing.
it is so amazing, Sean. I'm telling you, my clients absolutely love it, and people's lives are changing. Mine have changed so much just from having that machine. And not that I
Right.
want to give it all, there's other things I do, but that is like my first go-to in the morning and at night before I go to bed. And it's really just helped me. I just feel like a whole world's been lifted
Oh
off
yeah.
me.
It speeds
Yeah.
up every type of growth really quickly, especially if you start at the root.
Yeah.
So what that does, so the root chakra is known for grounding, camouflage, offense, defense, fortressing, destruction, uncreation, all the things you can need to survive and thrive in physical reality, including body tech. So it allows you to do a amplified upgrade if you're ever focusing on that tech in a meditation. And then it speeds up the remedy of releasing negative emotions and attachment and heaviness, and that
Absolutely.
will
You're so,
amplify
yes.
immunity.
You are explaining it so well. I get tongue-tied sometimes when I'm trying to, I know what I want to say, but I have a hard time articulating it. And I'm working on that because I want to be able to really share this technology with other people. It's so worth having. I offer sessions if there's any therapists out there or holistic practitioners that want to have add a service. It's worth having. The investment's been the best investment in my health, honestly, ever in my life. Quite literally, it's really amazing.
And it gets rid of inflammation, which amplifies weight loss, and then most causes of illness, and then the immune system, ability to fight different illnesses. Yep.
Yeah, well, you're welcome to PM me, and I can send you more information. Whoever, I don't know who asked that. I don't see where it says, but that's okay. So you and Yisa have a lot of exciting stuff coming up. I'm excited for you, and yeah,
Thanks.
Sean, you're doing
Same.
amazing work. You always have. I always dote on you and tell everybody how much I love you. I hope you know that.
Yeah, I
I
love
mean
you
that.
too. I don't know.
Yeah, and
Thank
I'm so
you.
happy you're with Issa.
You're so
Issa is
supportive.
a wonderful woman. She's powerful, and she's ancient. Her heart is ancient. She's amazing, and I feel it. I felt it the day I met her. So the first time I laid eyes on her, I was like, okay, let me check out this new woman Sean's with, and kind of wanting to size her up and make sure that she is good for you, right? And then I met her,
Well,
and I'm like, I'm so happy for you. Yeah.
thanks for your.
Of
I
course,
appreciate your
when you care
approval. That
about
means a
people, you want
lot.
to make sure that they're with people that love them deeply. Especially you deserve to be loved deeply, Sean.
You
So,
too. You too. And
well,
I'm
thank
looking
you.
forward to hearing more as your love life evolves in the future.
No, it
As
has
you're getting.
not. Isn't that something? 7 years in,
It
and
will.
I'm more than willing. I am open to receive some beautiful
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
energies
And you're
sent
getting
my way
yourself
to
out
help
there
me.
more.
I would love to meet a
And
beloved. I am. I'm getting out. I'm getting better,
yeah,
right? I'm getting out, and I'm
absolutely.
getting involved, and
Yeah, the more you're
maybe,
seen, yeah, there
yeah.
we go. So,
Well, yeah,
yeah, and then with the conference and everything, you're holding a blow weight. So I appreciate everything you're doing. Thank
yeah.
you for being my friend. And your previous thing, me plugging, and then I'll have you plug. Yeah, my name is Sean Bond of the Sonic League, a founder, PSI, right there, Psi, and sonicleague@gmail.com, Sonic League YouTube. Lots of ability is demonstrated and superhuman abilities there. You can get that and for free, and then see it and download it in your subconscious to-do list. Got workshops on my site. We'll have a store up and running, doing trips to various sacred sites, pyramids, doing Mexico next. Pyramids with superpowers that will give them what they need to open up and change the world, emit energy to the populace, and then keep expanding. Some of the places expands the whole galaxy, so it will change the whole timeline. And on our previous trips, like in Egypt, we have had people fall in love, and great friends that come together, like your event that you ran. Many friends meet up. So this is what people need to go to to meet their soul
That's the
family.
full disclosure now. What Sean is referring to, Sean was a presenter at the Full Disclosure Now, so is Yisa. Our first year, July 2024. We have our next conference coming up in July. We have Sean and Yisa coming back, some of the other speakers that were there, and then we have new ones coming in. Go to the link where it says Full Disclosure, that banner that's running, and get yourself a ticket. Come join us. You will have a blast. We had a great time. It was the best time, and people were getting educated at the same time, having a lot of fun, and people were, meeting different people that we're friends with on Facebook. You get to meet for the first time in your life, and build and develop more friendship, and connection, and collaborate and network and all that. So yes, come join us, Sean.
You did really well at managing the last one, so thank you for doing that,
Oh,
and
thank you,
look for the
Sean. I
new one.
appreciate that. I
Yeah,
really appreciate that.
yeah,
Thank you.
you did a great
Yeah.
job. It wouldn't happen without you. So yeah, online, fulldisclosuremovement.org. I think she'll put a list in the description, and you can buy a cheaper version of the ticket to get the presentations online and see it all. See mine and Isa's presentation. Really well done, going into psionics and self-defense, preventing abduction, amplifying, bringing in positive ET visitation, and eventually we'll go into the memory stuff, which was going to be in the presentation, but somehow time flies. So go get your ticket there. You can tell them about the next conference that will be coming up.
The next conference in 2025. So Sean and Yisa will be joining us then, and Sean, both of them will be presenting. And we haven't worked out a workshop yet, but I think that's something that would be fantastic to have you guys do a workshop, actual workshop where you have people participating. So we have some of the bigger hitters, big people that have been. Miles Johnson's flying over from the UK again. We have Rion Dion. I'm really hoping to get James Bartley, and this is the first time I've put this out there. Are you familiar with James Bartley, Sean?
I've seen and heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome. So, and I'm not going to share because we haven't,
Yeah, gotcha.
yeah, we haven't done
But
our
look out for it and
yes,
look for
look out
both
for
our
it.
feeds.
And even you could buy your early bird tickets are so worth getting, and that will end at 2000 or yeah at December 31st, 2024. Come January,
Nice.
prices are going up. It's in St. Pete's Beach, Florida. I co-produce with Brian Tseng, plus I do some other things behind the scenes. And yeah, that's it. And really, just being hospitable to the presenters and all the guests coming. We want you to know that you're welcome, and that this is our conference. It's not Brian's, not mine, not right. It's our place to build community and to really make a difference, a positive difference for all of us, co-creating the world we want to live in. I think
Yeah.
yeah.
Made
But
huge
okay,
shift to the timeline last time, so I can imagine this time as more and more people will show.
yeah, I think I had a lot of stress on me. It was my first one, but I learned a lot and I'm thankful for the experience. A lot of things have shifted for me since August or July. I'm sorry, Sean. There's been, I just feel a real internal shift. And part of it is just making the decision to let go of some things that I held on to for so long. Just saying, okay, I surrender. I'm not doing this anymore. And really,
I'm so glad.
yeah. So, yeah. Well, your help always, you're so helpful in that way. Go ahead.
Thank you. You too. And how do people reach you and get a hold of you and look out for more
Oh,
stuff?
well, please subscribe to Conscious Hearts, or I'm sorry, that's my old show. Sorry, Cosmic Ruh. Cosmic Ruh means Ruh in Hebrew and Arabic means spirit. So Cosmic Spirit podcast, but it's Cosmic Ruh. And please like, share, subscribe. Go to my Cosmic Ruh Facebook page where I post people like Sean and so many other people that I absolutely adore, that I feel is worthy of having a listen to a lot of their shows. I mean, he's just full of so much wisdom and knowledge and intelligence. I mean, I'm not blowing smoke up your butt. I don't do that. I don't give anybody, I appreciate your genius, Sean. And I mean that. And besides that, you have the biggest heart. You're just such a good guy. And you can't help but love you.
You
Right?
too. You're so good too.
Yeah.
Thank you for making the world better.
I appreciate you. Anyways, guys, check us both out. This show is a real laid back. I'm not here to be anything other than myself, and to bring genuine, authentic guests on that share real knowledge, real wisdom, real self-actualized experience, like Sean, so that he can share information with everyone that's listening, so you can apply it in your own life. What works for you? Maybe not everything we share is going to resonate, but what does, make use of it. Yeah, that's it. So go check out Sean Bond, Sonic League on YouTube, Facebook. Check them out and come back up. My next show is going to be with Miles, Brian, and Dr. Amir, and that's coming up on the 12th, I think Tuesday, the 12th of November. Although I did ask your beautiful beloved Issa, so I might maybe have her on before that. But just look out for the shows and lives. I do everything live. I quit doing pre-recorded. So I like to be right in the moment and just
Lovely. Yeah. Share this with 5 of your friends and comment below. Show us your love. If you want to see us do more shows, show us there. And love you all, guys. Thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Yep. Thank you, Sean. All right. Have a great evening, everyone. Take care. All right. Let me see. Sorry. I'm still learning this technology.